the box is open, right? Pandora's box is open. The genie's out of the bottle. You've got this technology now that is so powerful. It can really help us in so many ways. But at the same time, if we're not careful.
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On this episode today, we have Pete Canavan, who is the owner of PJC Services, LLC, a company specializing in digital and physical security solutions. With over 25 years of experience, Pete has been dedicated to providing comprehensive IT services and self-defense training for both commercial and residential clients, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. Pete, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Devon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive into things here to get things started. I'd love to kind of dive into a bit of your history, who you are, where you came from, and how you landed with PJC Services.
Interesting story. When I graduated college, there weren't a whole lot of jobs at that point in time in '92. When I graduated college, my degree's in computers and information systems. I minored in marketing. So at that point, a friend of mine actually had a small IT business, someone I met through a mutual friend. He's like, "Hey man, I'll hire you, if you're willing to, pound the pavement, do some cold calls, make sales, I'll hire you." So I said, "All right, fine." So fast forward a couple of years and I was doing everything. I mean, I was finding the clients, I was doing the installation, I was writing up the quotes, I was doing the installs, I was collecting the money, like I was doing everything. And the business, I could tell it wasn't sustainable in how it was being run.
Mm.
So I saw the writing on the wall. I started my own business while I was still running, working for him. But within 6 months, the business went out of business. And so luckily for me, since I was the one that my clients, that his clients saw, I was able to reach out to them and be like, "Hey, they're not around. I started my own business. You've been dealing with me. You want to keep dealing with me? Here I am." And so luckily for me, a lot of those clients came with me. So I had pretty much an instant client base. It was a much easier start to a business than most businesses, I guess you could say.
It's funny you mentioned that because, a lot of people who claim to be entrepreneurial spirited are reluctant to start anything because they're afraid of all of the different things that you're supposed to do when it comes to running a business. And as in your experience, it sounds like you kind of fell into that role, uncovered something that most people don't get the opportunity to be a part of, and that kind of lended maybe some confidence in your ability to be able to pursue this on your own. How do you feel about that?
Definitely fair to say, because it is difficult to break out on your own, especially if you start from scratch with nothing.
Hmm.
I had a little bit of an advantage there because I already had, prior relationships with a lot of those customers, which a lot of them are still, clients of mine today.
Hmm.
But I sort of say it's sort of the curse of the entrepreneur. Once you get bitten by that bug where, you're responsible for yourself and you're not punching a clock and responsible, for a different set of responsibilities, I guess you could say. But it is difficult wearing all the hats, because you're the marketer, you're the tech support, you're the salesman, you're the accountant. When you start a business, you have to do all of those things. And so you have to be disciplined. And when it's a home-based business, if it's based out of your home, obviously there are a lot of distractions there. The laundry's got to get done. Oh, the sink's dirty. Oh, the dog needs to go out. Oh, I got to vacuum the pool. Like there's 1,000 things that you got to do, but you have to be disciplined enough to know, hey, I go into my home office, I close the door, that's it. I'm working. I'm focused on that. Sure, there's going to be other things that if I want to or I need to, I can, go and take care of them. But discipline is a big one. And my martial arts experience, I think, is what gave me that ability to have the discipline in my business. And as I mentioned, Curse of the Entrepreneur, I actually bought our martial arts school I've been training at for the last 25 years in February. So now I own a second business. They need that like a hole in the head. My
Well,
wife's
yeah,
like,
yeah, you really got bit by that bug.
yes,
So,
yes.
so
So
Pete, walk me through what some of the day-to-day stuff is that you're up to now. Because I get that at some point, there was an era of startup where you wore all of the hats, but now that you've been successful, it's been a considerable amount of time. I'm sure you've grown your team and kind of systemized some things. So what are you up to now currently with the work that you're doing?
So when I first got involved in IT, it was you could make a lot of money. I mean, that's when you could sell a PC and make $1,200 on it. I mean, any PC you buy today, you're buying for a third of that, half of that. So there was a lot of money to be made back in the beginning, but as technology changed, as markets changed, as customers changed, as threats changed,
Mm,
I began to sort of pivot to more of a security focus and develop more in the cybersecurity area. So, for example, during COVID, when we were all locked down, a lot of people weren't doing anything. I took advantage of the downtime to create an online course that teaches businesses how to create a plan to recover from a cyber attack. And I can help them develop that plan roughly 90 days or less so that they have a plan in place so that when they get hit, they know what to do. And so I've pivoted into the security side of it more aggressively over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. And I guess because of my martial arts experience, I've been training and teaching for over 25 years there as well. At one point, I recognized, you know what? Hey, I keep people safe both in the digital world and the physical world. So it's kind of a unique blend of skills because most people that are in, for example, IT aren't going to be, at least most people I've met aren't in the martial arts and in that arena. So I've really grown that side of it. I mean, I've various certifications in the safety and security industry as well. From a physical standpoint, I've used that experience to create a podcast. I have my own podcast called Safety Talk, which has guests on it all about safety, whether it's online or offline safety. I've written 5 books, 4 of them related to safety and security. So I'm very passionate about lending my experience to those people that are interested in knowing how to keep themselves safe, whether it's against identity theft or, protecting online accounts or in physical safety and security when they're going about their day.
As you were speaking, I was reminded of a quote, and I can't remember where it came from, but it drastically changed my perspective, and I wonder how this kind of shapes the way that you approach things. And I'm going to butcher it here, but the idea is that you'll never beat me because I can force myself to do the stuff I don't want to do where you can't. And so I think that really shines a light on the discipline that it takes to be in the space that you're in and continue to pursue something meaningful. And by the sounds of it, the passion really is in genuinely looking to serve people and help them protect themselves. Because on both fronts,
Yeah.
whether it's in the digital world or in the physical world, that's kind of, it seems like that's been where you've been focused.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because of the martial arts training, that's what's gotten me to be so disciplined, which has obviously helped me in business. I mean, I'm a 5th degree master in both Hapkido and Taekwondo, so in 2 different martial arts, both Korean. Um, we've trained hundreds of thousands of students. The school's in its 40th year. When the master was going to retire, I'm like, well, you can't let this thing go in its 40th year. He's like, well, I'll sell to you cheap if you want. It's like, well, I need another business like a hole in the head, but I can't let this thing go, and I'm passionate about it. So I'm in the process of now of rebuilding that business as well to get it back to its former glory. Because I mean, we had before COVID, like a lot of businesses, a lot of gyms, a lot of martial arts studios, yoga studios, and things like that. They were doing fine, but the lockdowns really hurt a lot of small businesses. And a lot of them never recovered.
Right.
We were able to weather that storm, but we had 120 students or so before that time. I'm down to 25. So now it's the rebuilding process because it's been harder to come back after that for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure, but I've been investing my time, my energy, and finding mentors that can help me create a more successful business there as well. Because you have to have mentors in business. You have to have people that have been there, done that, not just people who have written a book on something and have never really lived it.
Mhm.
And that really shines through, I think, when you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. It's like, wow, here's somebody who's been there, done that, and this is somebody I can respect, is somebody I can learn from.
Yeah, so that brings up a whole other can of worms in terms of like the actual growth of the business. And I know that with 25 or more years of experience kind of growing PJC, there are things that you learned along the way there in what it takes to find and inspire a customer to become a customer. Can you walk
Well,
me through what that experience looks like for the uh at least for PJC in terms of how you find and qualify and then convert a customer?
so the advantage of having a lot of experience is I'm not somebody who comes across as being your typical computer consultant slash nerd, I guess you could say, or geek, right?
Right.
Most people that are in the IT space, they are very technically oriented, and a lot of them, because they have such an intense focus and ability to basically talk to computers through like programming, right? It makes them a little bit harder when they are trying to communicate with people who are non-technical. I'd say one of my big advantages in business has been the ability to simplify technical concepts, technical terms, and technologies, quite frankly, um, to my clients that have inquired about it. Or when I come across something that I think can benefit them, most of them are going to trust me. They're like, well, Pete says we need this, because I never I never steer somebody wrong. I would never sell somebody something that they don't need. My clients know that, because the minute you start doing things like that, that's completely unethical. Why am I going to sell you something that you don't need, that's not going to benefit you in any way or give you any sort of return on your investment? The minute I do that and you find out about it, you're not going to want to do business with me. You're going to tell all your clients and your friends and your associates, hey man, this guy sold me on something I totally didn't need, spent all of this money. I don't know why. You know what I mean? So we've all heard the phrase that, one customer, one satisfied customer tells like one other person, but one dissatisfied customer tells 10 other people, right? And so you definitely don't want to be on that side of the equation. And the only way you can do that is by making sure that you are genuine and informed, because you can't BS your way, to somebody either, because it's so easy to find any information out online anymore that pretty much any of us can become like I say, an expert, but a pseudo expert in just about anything out there, because the information's at our fingertips. And so you've got to be careful that you are, that you're genuine and that you are real and that you are somebody that can demonstrate that they're honest and trustworthy to their clients. And then that'll bring you more clients. And most of my clients come to me through word of mouth anymore.
So I get a sense that because you have established uh, a reputation for being somebody who's honest and transparent and can serve at a high level, that's where a majority of the people who start their journey towards you, that's how they get there, is through that word of mouth and through that referral, maybe network. Um, Beyond that, are you deploying anything by the way of like advertising? Do you do anything on social media? You mentioned that you had a podcast. Does that kind of serve that brand and reputation as well, or is that more kind of just to continue to preserve the reputation that you currently have?
So a couple of things to unpack. The podcast, when we start with the last thing you said, that has allowed me to learn about new technologies as well as educate my listeners and viewers on things that are available to them, either at a business level or at a personal level, to improve, for example, the safety and security of their company, or to improve their personal safety. So we do both of those things. In terms of finding clients, LinkedIn has been something that I've used probably more than anything else over the last couple of years, because it allows you to really hone in on the people that are your ideal client by doing a little bit of research on them.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing more speaking lately, and I want to continue to do that. So because I have so much experience over these 25, 30 years, I want to share that experience with people. So if someone has a business and they're looking to, hey, we need somebody to come in and talk to us about how do we keep our employees from getting fooled, from phishing attacks, or different ways that the company's data can be compromised, you can bring me in and I can talk to them about that. I can do some training on it, whether it's for an hour or 2 days or 4 hours or whatever it happens to be. I can grow and contract that information accordingly, depending on the audience, their level of expertise in terms of their technical knowledge, et cetera. As I said, I have a really good, I'm very good at taking those technical terms and making them easy for people who are non-technical to understand. And that's key, because we all can't stay up on technologies and know everything about it, nor can I, right? But at the same time, this is my life. This is my world. I've got to stay up on things. I've got to know what's out there. I've got to know what those threats are to people. And then, obviously how to best protect them from those threats, whether it's a business protecting their intellectual property, or just making sure somebody doesn't get scammed and wire money somewhere. I mean, and everything in between, because there are bad threat actors. We've seen cyber attacks grow just crazy. And the biggest companies with the smartest people and the largest budgets still get hacked. And so that's why I decided, you know what? Hey, I'm all about prevention. I configure firewalls and routers and networks and I servers and I do all that. But at the end of the day, you're probably still somebody's going to figure out a way in. If they have enough determination and enough time and sufficient technology, they're going to get through whatever layers you've got. And so you better have a plan in place to protect yourself and to recover from that. And so that's where I'm really specializing now. And when I tell people that, it's like, okay, everybody talks about prevention. Not a lot of people talk about the flip side of it, which is the other side of the coin, which is how do you recover from it? Because if you don't have a plan and you can't recover, now you could be out of business. And if you do recover, chances are it's going to happen again because this is not going away.
Right. It's funny because something that I read recently, just on the topic of cybersecurity, is that your weakest link is actually your people, because all it takes is one very cleverly disguised email with a link you shouldn't have clicked for your whole organization to come tumbling down. And without the proper
Absolutely.
education and tools and resources in place, that preventing that is obviously like the first side of it, but then dealing with the inevitable becomes an even bigger challenge. So Pete, there's on one side of things here, there's a school of thought that in the day and age of technology and automations and AI, there are some of these redundant tasks in the marketing process, in the customer acquisition process, that need to be automated in order to grow a business in a sustainable way. Versus the other side of the coin here, and I've had both sides of this argument. I'd love to get your perspective on this. Um, what seems like to you is more important, the that personal touch, the one-on-one conversations, individual reaching out to people, doing the research. Do you find that that poses a challenge in the way of like the bottlenecks in your business in acquiring new customers, or does that allow you to grow at a pace that's more comfortable for you? What's your take on that side of things?
Okay, it's a big question. Uh, the technology is out there to help us, and it can definitely even using things like AI to parse through lots of data to qualify prospects for your business, whatever it happens to be, to help you write effective sales letters, to help you develop training programs. So, I mean, AI and generative AI is a very, very powerful tool. But at the end of the day, it can't do that last leg of the selling for you. So I think what ends up happening is people depend too much on the technology, and then they
Mm,
want to know why it's not really working. Well, it's because they're afraid to pick up the phone, right? So many people are afraid to just pick up the phone and make a phone call. Establish some rapport with somebody, get somebody on the other end of the line. And if you're not the right person, tell me who is the right person to talk to about whatever it happens to be that you're maybe trying to sell, or whatever service or whatever it is you happen to try to do. So utilizing the power of technology, and in this case, specifically artificial intelligence, it can help us in a lot of ways. It can help with customer service. I mean, people are training chatbots, but you've got to have a way to transition to the person and the personal touch, because we all get annoyed, you, me, and everybody listening to this, when you're calling up somewhere for support and you've got an automated system and it's like, just tell me your problem. And it's like, no, I want a person. And it's like, and you can't get anywhere without going through, and jumping through some hoops until finally you can get a person. Now, I'll tell everybody a little trick about that. If you curse at the phone, you'll typically get a person because it knows you're frustrated, right? Um, so it's like, give me a damn person. It's like, I understand you're frustrated. Let me see what I can do for you. It's like, yeah, you ain't seen frustrated nothing yet, So, um, so technology is good, but the over reliance on it to build a business or to grow a business uh, cannot be, overstated. You have to use it up to the point where you realize, all right, now I have to take the reins. I've got to get on the phone. I've got to draft that customized email and not rely so much on technology. Because hey, I'm in IT. This is what I do. This is my life. I love it. I harness it. It saves me ridiculous amounts of time every day. And every day that goes by, there are more tools and more things that are out there to help us. But with the generations that are coming up now, that have grown up with technology, that are growing up with cell phones, that have grown up with computers, the personal touch eludes them, And I
Mm.
think if they don't know how to balance that down the road, it's going to hurt them in their ability to advance in business and in life.
The ability to be social, so like
Yes.
the skills that it takes to interact with other people are so crucial across so many different areas of your life that if you can't get it dialed in, you're not just going to suffer in one, you're going to suffer in multiple areas because the skill of sales is as important in business as it is in finding a suitable mate, as it
Mhm.
is in having a lifelong friend or maintaining a healthy family life. There's all these elements of the social code that play such a crucial role. So it's really interesting actually to hear from somebody who is in the tech world that that's a primary skill because that's very uncommon, right? I think you were alluding to that before that a lot of these guys are really great with computers but terrible with people. And so to their detriment, it can
I
be
think,
harmful to miss that part of the experience of learning and growing a business.
well, because it can be frustrating, right? I mean, if you have somebody that has all of this technical knowledge, but they have a really hard time of articulating that to someone who's not technical, you're limiting what you can do. There'll always have to be that middleman that can do that. It's like a translator, right? I mean, it's essentially what you are. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of people that work for me over the years that are all highly technical, but when it comes down to it, if I have to send them to a customer, I kind of cringe sometimes because I know that they're not going to be maybe as able to explain what it is they're doing and be as personable as they need to be. Now, I'm not saying you got to be, their best friend at the end of the day, but you
Hmm.
still have to be able to have that awareness of what it takes to get somebody to right to know, like, and trust you. It has to come across, and you have to, it practice makes perfect. Um, with people growing up today with so much, where technology and social media is sort of an insulator, right? That screen is in between me and you, like it is right now. We're on Zoom, right? We're in between. So it's a little bit different because we're interacting, we're not just like emailing or chatting or texting each other back and forth. Um, but at the end of the day, the ability to be able to still be a social animal, because we're all social animals, uh, is extremely important. And so you can't use technology as an excuse because it'll only get you so far.
Right. It won't replace the human element. And that's so funny because that's the kind of the ongoing debate is, oh, AI is going to replace humans. And most of the sentiment that I'm getting is actually, well, no, we're not really worried about AI replacing humans. We're worried about our humans being able to use AI properly.
That's absolutely true. I mean, and me, I'm a safety and security guy, martial artist. I know all kinds of ways to protect myself and people, but there's not too much that scares me. But AI scares me because if unless we have guardrails on it with
Mm.
regard to its ethical use, it's going to get. I mean, the box is open, right? Pandora's box is open. The genie's out of the bottle. You've got this technology now that is so powerful. It can really help us in so many ways. But at the same time, if we're not careful, I mean, Terminator was sort of a glimpse into a future that could potentially be, and when we all watched that movie way back, it was all, science fiction. Well, it's sort of now becoming science reality because if we see artificial intelligence as we are now, seeing it being applied into the military equipment, it's being applied into everything, every part of our lives. Um, it's a scary thing because we have to, and that's why I guess it was like what 2 years now ago, where Elon Musk and a few of the other tech leaders, called for a 6-month moratorium on development of AI because they were like, you know what, it's advancing way too rapidly, way too quickly. We can't even understand some of the ramifications of what we're doing. We need a timeout. And that's what
Mm.
they were asking for. It's like, hey, just go time out. Let's stop. Let's figure out what should we or should we not be able to do with it. And we really don't have those guardrails on. And without guardrails, I mean, it's scary what could potentially be down the road. I mean, once it becomes, like they're talking about self-aware, right? Um, that's it's a scary place, and so we've got to be able to always be able to pull that plug. There always has to be a human in the decision-making loop. of whatever it happens to be, whether it's a military application, whether it's a commercial application, whether it's a residential application, whatever the application is, there should always be a final sort of sign off by a person, by a human. So that way there's at least that level of insulation between a decision that's being made and a result that maybe is not what you intended.
Yeah, the the uncertainty of what's coming down the pipeline does make it a little bit unnerving. I follow a couple of people on social media that are kind of observing scientific and technological advancement. And one of the things that is even more terrifying is that they have been able to create what she calls organoids, which are these living things that are made out of brain tissue, and then given it access to something really, really simple like an application like Pong. And it was able to teach itself how to interact with that interface in an unprecedented amount of time. And then if you imagine what it would be like to take these brain matter organoids and connect them to a large language model and then to give it access to all the other, just imagine what crazy things are coming out of the pipeline. But let's take it out of the clouds here, Pete, for just a second, and maybe for you, let's explore what's kind of on the horizon for PJC. What's in store? What are you working towards? What are some of the bigger goals that are coming down the pipeline for you?
So I am focused now on more businesses taking advantage of developing plans so they know what to do when they are the victim of a cyber attack. So my cybersecurity recovery program called Bulletproof Cybersecurity, cyberbizplan.com. You can get a free checklist and some information about it. Uh, is one of the, I guess, legs you could say that I'm standing on with the business now. Uh, Other than the IT side of it, which I've always been doing, I'm trying to transition a little bit away from that and get more into speaking. I really enjoy speaking, getting in front of an audience, educating them, answering their questions, being able to assist in making them safer, whether it's, like I said, doesn't matter where it happens to be, online or offline. There's threats everywhere. And so you need to be aware of them, what they are, first of all, in order to be able to protect yourself. So speaking and whether it's virtual or in person, I've done them both and been doing more lately and want to continue to do more. So I'm always available in that respect. And then with the martial arts school, it looks like that's going to be taking a little bit more of my time going forward. But I really, really like that. You know, we all need an out. Okay, something that's going to help you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The martial arts does that for me. I know that has definitely been a contributing factor towards my ability to persevere in the face of challenges in business, because there are always challenges. There's no such thing as smooth sailing every day in the life of a small business owner, or even a big business owner. There are always things that can affect your day. Sometimes those are good, sometimes they're not so good. But you can't let things get to you. And so having a healthy perspective and a way that you are able to, sort of get that stress relief, however it is. Some people work out, some people jog, some people do martial arts, other people do drugs, do alcohol. You know what I mean? Everybody needs an escape. They need a thing, but it should be a positive thing. And so that's why I think the martial arts has been incredible, because it's really helped me grow in so many different ways. And I've watched so many of my students grow and develop. And in business, that's something that you need. You need to have a big perspective, right? You have to have an open mind and willing to learn. And all of those things that are essential in business are traits that are essential in martial arts and self-defense training as well.
Big goals, but also some there that sound like they're a labor of love, which is amazing to be able to have both a pursuit of contributing to the fabric that is our collective culture, but then also something that's rewarding and kind of serving that early audience. I think is really really powerful. Pete, if somebody wanted to actually, before we wrap up, I want to ask you one more question here. In terms of if somebody was in a similar role as you, doing similar work, kind of facing some challenges or some struggles or hurdles to overcome, what's one piece of advice that you could offer them to kind of help them along their way?
This too shall pass. um, Nothing's going to last forever. You may be facing some big challenge in business, might be unexpected costs, maybe you lost a key client. There are always things that are going to present challenges to us professionally and personally, right? But knowing that tomorrow's another day, you get up, you face the day, you do what you got to do. Try not to lose focus of what your end goals are. It's extremely important to have goals. I mean, it's sort of a cliche, but you need to know where you're going to be tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, and work backwards. Look at those long-term goals, and then all right, well, how can I make that work for me today? How can I make it? And then know that going in, there will be challenges and days where you don't want to get up out. You don't want to get out of bed, right? If it happens to all of us, it's like, man, I know it's going to face me today. I got to go deal with this problem or that issue or that client, and you're not looking forward to it. The thing you hate to do the most, do first. So you spend the least amount of time worrying about doing it.
The solution is going through.
It's funny you said that, because I tell people, one of the trainings I do is called the warrior mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about overcoming challenges. And I tell people, you got to go over, under, around, or through whatever is standing in your way. And when you have the mindset of a warrior, and really, I mean, even in martial arts or in a self-defense situation, your mind is 80% of it, right? I mean, being able to physically do something is great, but if you don't have the proper mindset that you're going to persevere, somebody's try to do harm to you, your children, your spouse, whatever, you get like the mama bear instinct in a woman, right? I mean, you're messing with my kids, watch what happens. A person can have zero training, but they're going to be extremely effective because the mindset that switch is flipped from I'm a nice person to I'm not a nice person, and you should have never messed with me, and you're going to ruin the day that you did, and let's go. And you just got to, and you have to have that 110% commitment to the positive outcome, whatever happens to be. I'm going from one extreme to the other, but it could be a small challenge in business. It could be a big challenge in business. It could be a big challenge in life. It could be a small challenge in life. But if you have the right mindset of thinking to yourself, look, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to persevere. My motto is persistence is the key. Because there are plenty of people that are smarter than you. There are plenty of people that are better looking, or they live in a nicer house, or drive a nicer car. Who gives a crap, right? If you're more persistent than anybody, you're going to get to the finish line to where you want to go. And there will be challenges, but you stay persistent and you have a never quit attitude. And that is big. And if you need motivation, go watch my warrior mindset training on YouTube, because it's all about that. Like the samurai warriors, right? They were given a job. They had to go do it, knowing they full well may die in the service of the emperor. But that was okay. They were going to do the job. It was for the good of people, And so you have to have the same attitude where it doesn't matter. You're not going to give up. You're just not going to give up. And it's sometimes not easy to do, right? I mean, there's a lot of days where we feel like giving up for whatever reason, right? But you got to take a deep breath and just, no, I'm going to get through this. Here, what do I got to do next? And just kind of take a step back before you take a step forward.
I've always been a subscriber to the idea that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And
I like that.
It's being capable allows you the choice to choose to go over, under, around, or through. And I think that that's very powerful, especially in life's more challenging situations. So I think that advice is incredibly powerful, Pete, and will be very impactful for the listeners. On that note, if somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further, or perhaps work with you in some capacity, how would one go about doing that?
Easiest way is probably to go to my personal website. It's just my name, PeteCanavan.com. A lot of information on there about me, how to get a hold of me, what it is that I do. I'm on LinkedIn, Megan, I think it's MrPeteCanavan.com or whatever it is, PJC Pete. I don't know, I got so many different accounts everywhere, but you can easily find me on there. Reach out. I'm on there pretty regularly. Don't have time to be on all the different social medias. I don't know who does, but LinkedIn, Facebook for family type stuff primarily. And then, just, reach out, email, phone. It's all on the website. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about any challenges, or, if they're interested in having me help educate their employees, their attendees, whatever it happens to be, about ways to improve the safety and security of people in a business environment, securing a business, as well as commercially, workplace violence, for example. I mean, I do all kinds of stuff. So
A man of many talents. I love it. I'll make sure to link to all that stuff in the show notes so people can get in touch with you after they've listened. And on that note, if you want to get in touch with me and my team for any reason, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode, and I will see you in the next.